I think, y'all, it's Zoom. Zoom is running really slow today.
There was an outage earlier.
Okay, Leslie, we're rolling.
Okay.
We're recording.
Heartaches on long breaks, I learn from my mistakes. Hope you do too. Heart turns in slow, burns the wounded heart still earns. Hope you do too. I'm gonna learn me my lesson and move on. I'm gonna keep on loving till the love is gone. 'Cause I can see that something's weak and somehow strong, and I knew it all along. Did you steal tracks and throw backs? I try to trace my tracks. Hope you do too. Long range and short change, I find everything strange. Hope you do too. I'm gonna learn me my lesson and move on. I'm gonna keep on loving till the love is gone. 'Cause I can see that something's weak and somehow strong, and I knew it all along. Did high hopes and short ropes, I try to change my scope. Hope you do too. Strong nights and fist fights, I'm down by the bright lights. Hope you are too. I'm gonna learn me my lesson and move on. I wanna keep on loving till the loving's gone. I'm gonna learn me my lesson and move on. I'm gonna keep on loving till the loving's gone. I'm gonna learn me my lesson and move on. I'm gonna keep on loving till the loving's gone. 'Cause I can see that something's weak and somehow strong, and I knew it all along. Did you? Did you? Did you?
Hi, I'm Jimmy with Professional Home Staging and Design, and for over 15 years we've been helping real estate agents, homeowners, and investors make more money selling homes in the Raleigh area. For a minimum investment, you get a maximum return with home staging. It's proven that homes sell in quicker time and for more money. So again, we are Professional Home Staging and Design, professionalhomestaging.com.
Hi, my name is Adam Schneider, and I'm with Oakwood Lending. You can reach us at oakwoodlending.com. And I've been with TREIA since 2012. I'm located in Raleigh, and I've bought over 150 houses, so I've got plenty of experience to help you if you need a second set of eyes. When we do our loans, we don't require a loan application fee. We rarely require an appraisal. We don't charge draw fees on it. We have a quick turnaround time, usually responding within 24 hours. We're okay.
Well, all right, y'all, we're going to cut the slideshow off there. It's pretty clear that Zoom is having some problems today because every one of us has tried with the technology today and thinking it was the other one's internet, and it's not. It's something else. We're not sure what. So hopefully this meeting will turn out okay, but we're going to just wing it and play it by ear. Couple announcements. Again, TREIA networking is going on our Facebook networking page. Join there and do some networking. If anyone has a who's got what they'd like to do today, if you have anything you need that you'd like to ask for, if you have anything you'd like to offer, send us a quick note in the chat and we will get you up here to say your piece. I'm not going to go into any announcements about new programs because today's program is all about the pilot program. So you're going to learn all you want to know about that real quickly here. Just going to let Leslie go over what's upcoming, and then we will turn it over to Audria. And Leslie, while you're doing that, I'm going to try to get the video up.
Yeah, next week, of course, this is the final meeting for this week. We've had a busy one. But next week we've just got TREIA South, and of course South meaning absolutely nothing because we're all still on Zoom. That'll be Stephanie Anson will be presenting that, and she has got a speaker. I'm going to get the meeting up on the calendar for you guys, but she has a speaker that is going to be presenting on the eviction environment
That'll be a good one.
due to COVID. That'll be Stephanie Datry is going to be coming on and speaking about evictions and how and if anything has changed as far as the landlord-tenant relationship and what's going on there. So that will be an interesting meeting next Tuesday at 6. And other than that, it's a quiet week next week. Keep your eye on the calendar. You'll be receiving the Week at a Glance emails next week for the following week, which of course is our chock-a-block week with North and New and what else? Fayetteville and Experience. So there'll be a lot of really good topics coming up. So keep checking the calendar, get pre-registered as usual. You guys are really good about that.
Always a real fun week for us. All TREIA all the time.
Yes. Yes. The TREIA channel.
The TREIA is our life. All right, Audria, well, you want to go ahead and start your meeting, and while you're doing that, I'm gonna work on getting the video up. So if I put something up and there's a little glitches going on, just ignore me and pay attention to Audria.
Okay, no problem. Well, hello again. My name is Audria Lynch. I'm going to be facilitating the meeting today. If you remember back a couple months ago, I did the part 1 of the TREIA Pilot project. Hello. Uh-oh. I think I just froze.
Nope, you're not. You're good. That's me. I think that's me trying to screen share.
Okay. I thought it was me. So anyway, on the last meeting a couple months ago, I had done part 1 of the TREIA Pilot project. I had hinted on the meeting that there would be a part 2. Well, here is part 2. So much had happened since our last meeting. We actually, at the time of the presentation, we were going under contract, but we actually closed on the house on the 13th of August. So many things have gone on with it. And also, when I was speaking the last time, it was more of my perspective of the project, but today we actually have some of the other group members here today, so they can give you their perspective on it as well. Also, I have a video to share about that kind of walks you through the process versus the PowerPoint presentation that I did last time. And also, we're gonna open it up for like questions, because I got quite a bit of questions and everything, so we can kind of go through that today as well. So that's where we're gonna go. Is it the video okay?
Yeah,
now?
can y'all see it on your screen?
I can.
Okay, so you ready for me to hit it, Audria?
Yeah. All right. So the video is going to take us from start to finish of our project, and we'll got to go from there. So yes, if you could roll it.
Here we go.
Turn it up just a little bit, Kath. Not getting any sound, Kathy. Can you turn it up on your end?
Are y'all not hearing the audio?
No.
I don't know. It's playing here. You want me to try to start over or just keep going?
I think we may as well just,
I mean, it's just music. It's not.
there's no speaking.
Yeah, I don't.
Kathy, there is some speaking near the end.
Okay.
Just right now, it's just music for about first like 8 minutes or
You
so.
want me to try to? Because when I did it before, you guys had the audio, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Do you want me to try to start over and try again? It's unmuted and the volume's up, so I don't know what's going on. What do you want me to do?
Is your volume up on your computer as high as it'll go?
Yes. Yeah, both my computer and
Oh. It is.
okay.
That's better.
I'm gonna
To determine ARV after repair value, we considered comparable sales of similar houses in the neighborhood sold within the previous 6 months. There were several houses that had just been sold in the range of $265,000 to $280,000. So we decided on an ARV of $270,000. We then moved on to estimating repairs and establishing a budget. The initial estimations were fairly high level based on walkthroughs of the property evaluating the cost of each area of the house that needed repairs. After discussing each line item in detail, the resulting budget was determined to be $80,000 to complete this project. Of the $80,000, 75% or $60,000 of the budget was allocated to 3 main categories equally: the exterior, the interior, and licensed trades such as HVAC, plumbing, and electrical. The remaining 25% was divided equally between kitchen and bathroom and remaining miscellaneous items such as contingency, staging, holding costs, and loan costs. The final rehab cost was $83,300. To recap project financials, the target ARV was $270,000, purchase price $145,000, repair budget $80,000, sales cost of $13,500, and a profit of $31,500, excluding any considerations for the tax lien. The actual results was a sales price of $305,000, purchase price of $145,000, rehab costs of $83,300, sales cost of $7,625, resulting in a profit of approximately $69,000. This didn't take into the potential tax lien benefit of $30,000, which would put the total profit of about $100,000.
Hi, I'm going to walk you through the funding for the purchase of the house at 101 Laramie. Our class started with 13 individuals, each who brought $10,000 to the table. That gave us an available balance of $130,000 cash to start with. We actually bought the house at Laramie for $145,000, but through some creative deal structuring, it only cost us $70,000 in cash. How could that be possible? Well, that's because they actually had a lien that we assumed of $75,000. So 70 cash plus 75,000 of the lien that we've assumed equals that 145 purchase price. It was a great deal for us because it only used up 70,000 of our available balance of 130. Gave us 60,000 for repairs. We knew that wouldn't be enough, so we did a hard money loan for an additional 25,000. That gave us $85,000 for our all-in budget. So remember, 70K to the seller, 85K in repairs is an all-in of 155, and the lien will be paid off with our proceeds at the time of closing, and we're currently negotiating with the IRS on that final number.
Our group purchased a property with an IRS lien attached to it. The main factor we had to consider before we made that decision was, could we make a profit if we had to pay that entire lien back? And we did a quick budget of our rehab cost and our ARV and decided that we did in fact have plenty of room in the budget to still make a profit. It required us to get the offer process in place with the IRS to get the lien partially forgiven or fully forgiven. In our case, we just asked for partial. So that's in place. And the takeaway is that I think you don't need to be afraid of liens. You need to make sure that you know about all of the liens before you purchase the property.
When designing for a flip, you should consider your budget, target audience, and comps. We had a tight budget and an ARV in the upper 200,000s. We didn't want to over-improve for the area, but needed the house to stand out from the competition. We went with a neutral palette of greige paint, white shaker cabinets, white tile, weathered brown floors, gray granite counters, and brushed nickel fixtures. For this price point, getting the lowest grade granite was fine, and it made the kitchen and baths look polished. We found an inexpensive white ceramic tile with a fun wavy pattern to add a pop of design on the backsplash and shower walls. As our target audience included young families, we chose a durable, waterproof LVP floor that we ran throughout. Not needing to tile the bathroom floors saved us money, and running the floors throughout made the small rooms look more spacious. For a special touch, we added reclaimed wood open shelving in the kitchen and hallway and a painted accent wall in the family room to define the space. Together, this created a clean, cohesive look that appealed to many buyers without breaking the bank.
About 2 weeks before the property was ready, we put up a coming soon flyer. We met as a group, one of our regular meetings, and to pick the listing price, we voted on some prices and we picked $289,900 as our listing price. Around June 10th, we finished the final cleaning. We decided to pick a staging company for $1,500. We felt that gave more of a feeling of being a home and stuff. Around June 15th, we started discussing listing. Aileen and others researched a bunch of flat fee options. We said we would pay 2.5 to the buyer's agent, but use a flat fee for the seller part. We picked a company called Houseo for $295. We took final pictures and drew measurements. The listing was finally up on June 20th around 2 p.m. That was a Saturday. We wanted it to be a Saturday because a lot of people see our homes on the weekend. We had 11 showings that Saturday and 4 on Sunday. And within 2 days, the first 2 days, we had 6 offers all the way from $295 to $305. The best offer we liked was a lady who had her mom as her agent. That was for $305 with $15,000 as DD. We liked her personal letter a lot, and it was a starter home, and so was perfect for her.
There you have it. They did a great job on that video.
That was a great video.
I forgot how nasty that house was until I saw that video again.
It was pretty bad. It was, let me put it this way. I didn't want to put bring my purse into the house. That's how bad it was.
I had thought about, so I had thought it might be nice to send that video to the buyer, and then I looked at him like, no, she doesn't need to know it ever looked like that.
No, a lot of times you don't even want the buyer to know how bad it was.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Get a little squeamish. Yeah, that was really good. Really good video.
Well, I figured that it is okay for us to toot our own horn on this video because this project was very, it was a learning experience, but it was also very rewarding. And I think everybody buckled down and did a good job. And so everybody in this video deserves a good to toot their own horn a bit because it was phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So with that said, that kind of gives us a summary of how bad the house was, what we went through to fix the house up, and to what it looks like now. And as you could tell, it looks pretty darn good. So as I said previously, I wanted to because when I did the previous presentation, it was a little biased. It was more so on my experience. So I wanted to invite others from my group to share their experience. And then again, we'll take questions.
Who wants to go first?
So we have, you guys, just so you know, we have 3 students here. Of course, Andrea. And we have Paige Alford and Karen Viljoen. They were 3 of the students from the class who will be happy to answer any questions you have. I was one of the instructors. Leslie was one of our guest instructors. So you get some great perspective. Anything you want to know about it, go ahead and ask. A couple things I was going to ask because I forgot a couple things, and when I was looking at the video, it reminded me to ask a question, but now I can't remember what it was.
Well, here's a question. How did y'all find your subcontractors?
Let's see.
Do we want to unmute? We got everybody unmuted there?
I got to unmute. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. Karen and Paige, y'all are unmuted, so feel free to chime in.
Hi, I'm Paige. I believe, tell me if I'm wrong, Karen and Andrea, but most of us brought contractors we had worked with in the past to come and submit bids for the work. And from that, and going to, because we wanted all of the contractors to kind of give us similar quotes, we worked on a scope of work, which personally I'd never even known about, which is a huge benefit when you want to bring in multiple contractors for a project. So we had to set our scope of work. And then from that, we didn't necessarily do it in that order, which was also part of the learning experience. So we did have to go back, but from that scope of work and getting the quotes is how we determined which contractor would do the job. But they all pretty much came from recommendations from each individual student, or, maybe Kathy or Chuck or other experts that have helped us out.
And what specifically would you look for certain things with each subcontractor, or was it based solely on price?
No, definitely not on price only. We learned our lesson with the first, sorry to interrupt, Paige. So we learned our lesson on the first subcontractor that we looked at. So we kind of divided the group up into 4, 5, probably about 4 people to go after plumbers, 4 people to look at electricians. And the first time we started with a plumber, and 4 different people spoke to 4 different plumbers with 4 different stories of what we wanted. And when the prices came in, they were all over the page. So then we had to sit down, do the scope of work, go back to the plumbers, some of which were pretty irritated by this point because they know how to requote a job. So we learned, don't do that to subcontractors. It's not a good way to start a relationship. Our prices were based on, our decision was based on price was important, but more importantly, some of the thing that excluded some of the people was that they couldn't start straight away. And then 1 or 2 of them were a it's also about who you feel comfortable working with. So it's, you know, personal rapport is also quite important once you've met them. So that's kind of how we made our decision. Then we learned our lesson moving forward to other subcontractors. Do your scope of work first, and then everyone's comparing apples with apples.
Did you require proof of insurance?
Yes. So we were quite strict about our paperwork, and that's something that I learned a lot about in this class. You know, doing the work is, I won't say relatively easy, but it's quite straightforward once you've done it once. But making sure that your paperwork is in place, making sure you have proof of insurance and a liability waiver if some of the smaller contractors, having a contract in place, the subcontractors agreement in place had to be signed and sealed with all the penalty clauses in place. If you don't do that, and the most important thing is to have a signed W-9, because once you've paid them, you're not going to get that from them. So make sure that you've got all of that in place. So that's a big thing that I learned from the classes. I didn't even know there was such a thing. So we learned that, and make sure your paperwork is in place. It might take you an extra day or 2 or 3, but it's worth it.
Good deal.
There's some questions in the chat. So the first one, I'll start by saying the very first class, everyone, we had very few really required meetings. But on the very first required meeting, everyone had to bring a property. They had researched and brought a property for consideration. Our idea was on that very first meeting that we would pick one that we liked the best and call and make an offer on the spot, which we did. But we didn't end up getting that property, and we didn't end up getting any of those 13 properties. So that we actually spent several more months after that searching for a property. So I'll let you guys answer this question with that background. How did you find the property? That's from Melanie Nickdell.
The proper, when you say how did we find, are you talking about the Laramie project or the other properties?
Well, I think it's all part of the same answer, isn't it?
Yes.
Well, Audrey, sorry to interrupt you.
No
I mean,
problem. Go ahead.
kind of yes and kind of no. I mean, we used all avenues. We used MLS. I remember I went on Craigslist and searched homes for sale on Craigslist. Other people, we tried doing wholesaling. We actually, did we ever end up putting the signs out, you guys? I think we got the property by the time we got the signs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You guys remember?
No, I don't
We
think
buy houses, so those signs, we had those. You found the Craigslist one was a property that we actually made an offer on.
the
So
Cecil property.
yeah, the Cecil Road property,
Right.
that one didn't work out. We did a marketing postcard campaign. We tried some wholesalers.
Drive-bys.
We pretty much tried every avenue, and it was great to learn what's out there.
Right, and remember the foreclosure auction, remember that one?
Oh, yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we
Oh,
went
yeah.
down to the downtown.
We
to
did a
the
lot.
Durham
Yeah.
courthouse, yeah.
But inevitably, it was Kathy that brought this winning home to us, which without that, we wouldn't have had the success that we did, honestly.
You would have found it eventually.
We would have found something eventually, but this particular location could not have been a better project for us in a fantastic location.
Right.
I mean, Cary, North Carolina, that's the jackpot.
Yeah. Lori Walter wants to know, what is a W-9?
In my very layman terms, a W-9 is a form that basically a subcontractor will fill in. It all it gives is either his EIN, which is business registration, or his social security number, and you submit that at the end of the year and issue a 1099, which means that any person you've paid over $600 to in your business that year, you have to issue a 1099. And what that does is tells the tax man that you have paid them that money, so your business can therefore claim them as an expense. Without that W-9, you cannot claim them as a business expense. And then that person, the onus is on him to obviously report that he's earned that money and pay tax on it.
Okay, I'll I'll take a stab at this question. Anthony Rivera is asking, did you perform any of the work? And if so, did you pay yourselves? The short answer for this class is yes, they performed a lot of the work. And yes, they are getting paid for that work. But one of the lessons from this class is that in future classes, we won't be having people doing work. Anything else y'all want to say about that? Feel free.
Oh dear. Put us on the spot.
I think there's a certain amount of work that you, as an owner, you can do. The cleaning up, the cleaning out, the washing windows, that kind of stuff is certainly doable for anybody. It's the skilled labor, if we can call it, always outsource that, unless you are perhaps a plumber, in which case, if it's your own project, that's one thing. But if it's a joint project or a pilot project, that person needs to be treated as a subcontractor with penalty clauses, timelines, payment, all of that upfront.
So Becca Lorenzini is asking, did you hire a general contractor?
No.
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 But in some cases you might have to, that's a decision that would be made on a case-by-case basis. In this case, it wasn't necessary. There was no structural work being done.
Mm-hmm.
I'll take this question. Janessa Tedderton is asking, are the profits split among each student? This is a class, not an investment, so no, we could run afoul of securities laws. The goal is, if a project is successful enough, that we could do tuition refund. Anyone else have any other questions? Were permits pulled?
Oh,
Aaron, you should take this.
Yes,
that's from
please,
Anthony
Aaron.
Rivera, and that's a great question, Anthony.
Not initially. We thought that we were doing cosmetic work initially. That was our thought process until we had a surprise inspection from the inspector. Lesson learned, always pull a permit. It's really not such a big deal. In Kerry, you can do it online. And the inspectors are really amicable and they're easy to work with. And it's really not as scary as it looks. So yes, we did pull a permit. We have a compliance certificate. Everything was done properly and inspected properly at the end of the day.
Just to expound on that a little bit, there wasn't a lot on this project that needed permits, just a couple of the trades, I think. And it was a conversation we had at the beginning, and then a decision was made to try to do it without the permit. So it's not that we weren't aware we might need permits. We were aware. We made a decision to see if, if sometimes if it's just a minor little thing, you might fly under the radar and it won't matter. It didn't turn out that way. So it was really, it was sort of, to me, this class was kind of a textbook example of really learning about everything you could learn about the rehab. So how long did it take?
Yeah, bottom line is, pull it. Never mind. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I just say, bottom line, it's easy enough to pull it. I mean, neighbors are apt to kind of spread the word and tell on you, especially if you're out and about as much as we were with the property. So it's easier to take care of it on the front end than stress out and freak out and try to get everything done in a timeline when you're busted, I guess.
And neighbors are part of the lesson as well. So Becca Lorenzini is asking, how long did it take to find the property?
A long time.
I think we started our first meeting the end of May.
July.
May.
Oh yeah.
No, the meeting. The first meeting was, I think, in May.
You're right.
And we went under contract
August.
Yeah. And we were consistently looking for places throughout that time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as you saw in that video, they looked at a lot of them, and there was one in Durham that we actually did make an offer on. It was a great project, Cecil Street. It had been gutted. The owner got in a little over his head. The problem with that was the purchase price. It was a transitioning neighborhood, So it could have been a total home run like this one, but it also could have been a disaster. The numbers were just too close and it was a little scary. We thought we could make it work because we learned that was our first lesson on creative financing. We made some offers to him to participate. In other words, if he would hold financing and share, we had several different offers, and I don't really remember the details, but they all required his participation in one form or the other. That would have made it workable because there was, risk reward. But in the end, he didn't want to do that. So in the end, that was just considered a little too risky. But yeah, they looked at, as you saw in the video, and that's probably not all of them, they looked at lots and lots of properties. Janessa Chatterton is asking, how did you develop the layout changes for the remodeling aspects?
Oh, Karen, this is a good one for you.
My background is in architecture, so I found it very difficult to walk into a house and not change it around in my head anyway. So we kind of had discussions about what we thought and a few ideas of how to change it. Suggestions going backwards and forwards, and some of the things we thought of doing in the beginning we did not land up doing after we'd met with a couple of people like Leslie and sort of really understanding this is not your house, this is a flip, this is for other people, may not necessarily be what you would do, but it needs to be for the masses. And I sketched up a couple of things. It was mainly work around the kitchen that was the sketch work that we needed done. So a couple of people were inexperienced in that they couldn't visualize it, and some people could completely see it. Had a few heated discussions about the length of walk from the main bedroom to the kitchen, that kind of stuff. But the layout sort of transitioned with the 13 of us giving our 5 cents worth, and we eventually got to the layout that we landed up on.
Well, I think also, if I may add, the house, kind of like you're saying, Karen, kind of led itself to some of its transition. Like when you first walked in the door, directly to the left was a room, and it was a sectioned off room that must have been their dining room, but it had a closet in there. So it was kind of weird anyway, but it kind of led itself to a perfect office additional bedroom, which would then take this home from a 2-bedroom, 2-bath to a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, which, as everyone knows, that's much more ideal. And in the kitchen, that was where we had some heated arguments. There was a cut through that led from the kitchen, and you could go directly to the back towards the secondary bathroom and master bedroom. But in the effort to create more of, I guess, counter space and cabinetry, and just to kind of have the kitchen as its own separate area, we ended up deciding to close off that door, which many people didn't want to do, but I believe in the end it was a great decision that we made. Anyway, the house kind of told us what it needed to be done, I guess, too. But you're better at that stuff, Karen.
Well, there were also a couple of restrictions about one of the walls that we wanted to cut back in the kitchen. We couldn't because there was plumbing in it that vented up through the ceiling, and we were on a slab, we weren't on a crawl space, so that restricted how easy it was to move plumbing around. You're going into a slab and you'd have to do some creative plumbing or chop up the slab. So that restricted us a little bit in some decisions. That room that Paige was talking about to the left that we decided to keep as an office, we had discussed at one point moving the entrance round into the hallway to make it a true 3rd bedroom. But then because of the size house and the fact that it was a ranch, we decided that it being a 3rd bedroom or a study was far more versatile, would cost us less money, and as it turns out for the buyer was perfect. So
That's all the questions.
Yeah. Well, I have a couple questions for everybody.
Go right ahead.
Okay. Let's talk. Well, can you give your perspective, ladies? Paige, Karen, can you give your perspective of the project and what you learned from it, what you would do differently, what you could take away from it?
You're up,
well,
Paige.
I'm mulling over what I want to say. I think for me, number one is this was a great learning experience. I learned a lot, and I don't want to, I definitely want to preface what I'm going to say with that. Second of all, a project with 13 people is every bit what you would expect a project with 13 people, would be like. There was, there's a lot of heads in there thinking, and a lot to, I'll just say that. So just, take that with a grain of salt. But I learned, I'm not sure. I do know what I learned. I learned a lot. I mean, it's hard to put into words. Again, like the contracts, dealing with contractors, I think for me was the biggest takeaway. The scope of work, the getting the, W-9s, all of that stuff. That was a big thing I had not even thought about before. Let me mull over some more. Karen, you fill in.
Yeah, I mean, Paige is right. There were 13 of us. We all have different backgrounds. We all have different aspirations. We all had different timelines. Some people worked full time. Some people did, real estate full time. So to get 13 minds to meet was sometimes a little bit challenging. But I mean, everyone put in their bits, and the project took a lot longer than we expected, just for various reasons such as COVID, et cetera, and so I mean there were certain people that started out with more time and landed up not having as much time. But I learned a huge amount about contracts, working with contractors, bylaws, construction, even though that's my background. That's not my background from here. I'm used to bricks and cement. So everyone learned their little bit out of it, and I think maybe one or two people kind of thought it was a little bit more like HGTV, which it is not.
Guilty.
Yeah, but you still
There it is. We watched that video. It looks just like HGTV.
It happens like that.
Yeah. And I mean the before and afters, it's apart from the timeline in between and the blood, sweat and tears, everyone put in their 5 cents worth, and it was great to work with different people and different personalities. Is that going to be your real life moving in the future? I don't think you are ever in the future going to be working with 13, 14 other people on a project. It's just not what you are aspiring to do, but that's not what the purpose of the pilot project is. The purpose is to learn in a safe environment the things that you're a little bit too nervous to learn going and doing it on your own, or even with one other person. So did we learn a lot? Yes. Did we learn hard lessons? Absolutely. Are there things that would happen differently? Sure. But it was the pilot. It was everyone learned, all the way to Kathy. I mean, Kathy and Chuck also learned a couple of things about how to train 13 people.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So moving forward, I mean, I think it was a fantastic experience, especially for people that are sort of like on the edge and they've never really done it, or maybe want to do it more streamlined. It definitely gives you the tools to do that. You have to have a little amount of patience to work with so many people, and sometimes timelines aren't what you want them to be, or decisions aren't what you wanting them to be, but you have to remember it's not your house.
And I think too, aside from the whole rehab process, I think there was learning. I know, for example, when we were at the Cecil property in Durham and getting ready to make an offer, there were some simple contract terms that there were some people in the group who said, what was that? For some really basic learning. And then when we talked about making a creative offer, I don't think anyone in the group that had ever occurred to them, So I think there's probably, as anytime you do a project like this, especially one that takes that long, there's learning that takes place that you've forgotten about or didn't realize just because you learned as you went along. Because I think right now, everyone in that group, next time they go to negotiate a house on their own, if the numbers aren't quite right or lining up, their head will automatically go, what can I do in a creative way to make this work? And I would feel safe to say before, that would have never happened. I mean, that's a huge learning right there. Just like the knowledge of creative deals and thinking of different ways. Because, when we were doing that Cecil and I came up with all these ideas, most people were saying,
like,
oh God, what in the world are you talking about? So I think that's
crawling around the crawl space.
Yeah.
Yes. I will agree with that, Kathy, a lot. And Karen, you're definitely more eloquent than I am. I will, kind of going off what you're saying is we all brought something that we were kind of all good at individually to the group. And it was really neat to kind of feed off the experience that other people had, kind of like what you're saying, Kathy, that, things that we hadn't even thought of because they aren't areas that we are familiar with or specialize in. And so that was an auxiliary learning that we learned or that we gained that I thought was really neat. And, so we all contributed bringing our own individual talents kind of to help the greater good. It was neat.
The other thing that I really gained a lot out of is that my network was solidified and broadened. So some things that you may not know, you now have a whole network of people that you can ask and you can put it out there. But there were several times where we'd be on our group and say, hey, does anyone know X, Y, and Z for a different project that you might be working on? So not only does it, you may not necessarily be working on the same jobs as these other people that you form relationships with, or the contractors, but you now have all these new people to ask questions. You're not so scared about asking questions anymore.
And not only that, and this isn't a learning, I think just the group dynamics, I would guess in the future there are members of that class who might do projects together. And look, right, for one thing, we have, out of that group of 13 students, we now have 2 new subgroup leaders and 1 new TREIA board member. So, there's beyond the learning experience of the class, and that's not part of learning, but it is like part of your future career as a real estate investor, that there were broad steps taken. That to me was just really cool that happened. That's one thing I didn't think about or expect. And I couldn't be more happy that now we have Karen as a subgroup leader and Audrea, and we have Crystal, who's not here today, who's one of our board members. So I thought that was super cool. Oh, how did you find your lender and terms, from Becca Lorenzini?
Well, one of our group members actually gave us the loan, and she set the terms as far as interest, and she of course had a stake in the house so that we could pay her back and everything. Did I got that right?
You sure did.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
If we hadn't have had someone like that, one of our group members was also a hard money lender, so, or worked for hard money lenders. So we had a couple of ideas.
And if there weren't any of those, we probably would have started first with TREIA vendor members, looking for that, but we didn't have to, because it was a great group in terms of diversity. We had a couple lenders, we had a couple realtors, we had an architect. My God, how much better than that is it getting? And we had people who were had done projects before, and we had people who had never done anything. So it was good. And one of the things about the class is you can sort of choose. If you just want to sit back and pay your tuition and watch and not do anything, you can do that. You're not going to expect a tuition refund if you do that. If you want to, get more involved, then our goal, again, with no guarantees, is that we do tuition refunds. So it's very flexible. It can really be what you want it to be. And I'd say in this group, we had all of those. We had from the very involved to the very uninvolved.
Yes, it was
That's it. Audrey, do you want to wrap up, because time's up and there are no more questions?
Okay, well, I guess I will pose the same question to me that I asked of Karen and Paige. I will say that about my learning experience. I came into the group with minimal experience in real estate, and I also came in, I've been the kind of person that has always tried to be a leader and tried to know everything. And it was a sign of weakness if you didn't know everything. And to be honest, I didn't know what I was talking about half the time. You all can attest. But I learned that it's okay. I learned that it's okay to take a step back and to let other people take lead. So that is one of the takeaways that I learned from this project. It's okay to accept help from everybody, and it's okay to you don't always have to be in a leadership role. So that's my takeaway. And it was it's a little bittersweet that, I'm glad that we're going to be able to move on to other projects, but at the same time, I am going to miss everybody in the dynamics.
That was a big part of your life for a long time. I guess that's true.
It's going to be interesting to see who the first person to leave the group chat is going to be.
You should burn it. And if you have any more last minute questions before we go?
I will say this was a great experience, that if you are curious about this or learning more, it was very much worth the time and the investment on multiple levels. So feel free to reach out to any of us. I'm sure we'd be happy to answer questions for you.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Becca Lorenzini says, great presentation. Thank you. Beautiful project. It turned out beautifully. Thanks for sharing. From Kiana. Everybody really enjoyed that. How do you get involved?
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Janessa, put your email in the chat and I'll send you information. But Andrea, this was really great. Thank you. And thank you so much, Paige and Karen, for being here and sharing
thanks for joining in, girls.
It's a hot one. Hope y'all go stay cool for the rest of the afternoon.
Stay safe.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Ladies.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.